efforts to help the people of the Central African Republic, where he warned the crisis situation is worsening. VOA's Margaret Bashir reports from the United Nations as France announced Friday it would temporarily increase its small troop presence in the CAR.
Intercommunal attacks and reprisals by mostly Muslim Seleka fighters and largely Christian Anti-Bellica fighters have killed thousands and left nearly 1 million people displaced or as refugees in neighboring countries. More than half the CAR's population has been affected by the crisis and are in need of aid. On Friday, UN Chief Ban Ki-moon expressed his concern to the Security Council about the cycle of revenge and reprisal attacks. It is becoming more likely that the United Nations will take over the African-led mission in the coming months, turning it into a full-fledged UN peacekeeping force. Margaret Bashir, VOA News, the United Nations.
Syrian government and opposition delegates in Geneva said peace talks have reached an impasse Friday. No progress on ending the 3-year civil war. United Nations mediator Lakhdar Brahimi met separately with the Syrian government delegation and the opposition delegation. Syrian opposition spokesman Loe Safi said Friday the 5 days of negotiations had come to a dead end because of the government delegation's belligerence.
The regime has not submitted any other proposal about transition to democratic practice, away from dictatorship, away from bloodshed, away from imposition of the people in power on the population.
Syrian Deputy Foreign Minister Faisal al-Mikdad said the opposition came to the talks with an unrealistic agenda.
But I think those who do not give a chance for discussion and agreement on combating terrorism are definitely not part of the Syrian people and contradict with the wishes and aspirations of the Syrian people.
Both sides kept open the possibility for more negotiations. More details at voanews.com. Ukraine has freed the last of the 243 protesters arrested since anti-government demonstrations began in November. The release was part of a law passed last month to free the demonstrators from police custody. However, criminal charges will only be dropped when the demonstrators stop occupying government buildings. Opposition activists say they will stop blocking a main road leading to public buildings in the capital, Kiev, but they made no mention of when they would leave those buildings. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is leaving China on this Saturday, pleased at Beijing's commitment to pressure North Korea to return to nuclear talks. After meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping Friday, Kerry said China could not have more forcefully reiterated its commitment to a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. Asiana Airlines is changing its training for pilots to encourage crews to talk more and change cockpit culture. Asiana Flight 214 crash-landed at San Francisco International Airport last July, killing 3 and injuring 180. A U.S. investigation found the corporate culture may have been an issue in that deadly Asiana crash. A month after the crash, VOA was the first to report that the crash could be linked to a culture of cockpit hierarchy, where one pilot defers to another senior officer, even if the junior pilot fears imminent danger. Japan's Yuzuru Hanyu Friday became the first Asian to win the men's Olympic figure skating title at the Sochi Winter Games. The 19-year-old Hanyu recorded a point total of 280.09. Earlier, athletes from Switzerland and Belarus each captured their second gold medals. In the women's individual 15-kilometer biathlon, Daria Domracheva of Belarus finished first with a dominant showing of her own. More on these stories and more at voanews.com. I'm Vincent Bruce, VOA News in Washington.
Bring in, as promised, Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker Michael Moore. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Rachel Maddow. Good evening, Rachel.
Good evening, Keith.
There's been a spike in the desire to own guns in Connecticut. Statewide, over 90,000 guns have been authorized for sale. You know how I feel about it.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Good evening.
my fellow patriots, my fellow Americans, my friends, family, neighbors, countrymen. I feel like I want to go off in the prose here and lend me your ears. lend me yours. You know, that reminds me of a time. Before we get all crazy and stuff, let me kind of let you know who you're listening to. This is Jeff Norton of the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. It's going to be one of those nights. It is Friday, February 14th. Otherwise known as Valentine's Day. So, for all of those out there who are contrived to purchase gifts, flowers, chocolate, all those things, you know, I feel for you. I think Sandy and I have an understanding. Every day's a Valentine's Day here in the Norton household. We don't need a special day for it. I think there's a point in which we keep it as a family show, but they say that there's 3 evolutions to a couple's relationship, and you can join me at patriotfb.com. I'll be glad to tell you what those are after the show. But Sandy and I have pretty much gotten to the 3rd and beyond. You have a great relationship when you feel that when that person's not in your life or not part of your life, that you're not whole. You're just not complete. And Sandy and I are at that point in our lives. By no stretch of the means are we old and grandma and grandpa yet. Well, actually, we're grandparents, but we're at that point. We don't need a special holiday to celebrate our love and affection for each other. We don't need industry telling us or telling us that we need to purchase something to show our love and our affection for each other. We do that every day. I think the best way that I show my love and affection for Sandy is I get up and I go to work and I pay the bills, right? We do what we got to do to survive. And it's been like that for a long time. For a very long time. That's how. I don't know, guys. Chime in here. Isn't that how, we provide for our families? Isn't that how we show our affection ultimately? I know the world, is full of that term metrosexual, in which we're supposed to be all, emotional and stuff. And we get emotional. We watch movies together. Yeah, I'll tell you, I get upset. I get emotional. I cry during certain movies. I watched one today about whales, saving the whales in Alaska. It was pretty cool. Pretty neat little movie, and it was touching. It was heartfelt. I won't want to, give you a spoiler alert, but it was heartfelt. Kind of teared me up a little bit. The ones that really get to me is when I see a soldier, a soldier's funeral. That gets me every time. But it is what it is. So it is February 14th, Valentine's Day. I hope you are spending it with the one that you love. And if you're not spending it with the one that you love, then you need to get your head checked. Life's too short. I'm just telling you. And for those out there who are single, don't fret. Don't be upset. Your day will come too. But it's no big deal. And our illustrious leaders seem to think that committed relationships are outdated, antiquated. That's why they're spending so much time, money, and effort, our money and effort, demonizing those who do, eroding the family, overtaking our children in school, reprogramming them, making the state the perceived caregiver and authority over their lives. But, Nancy Pelosi even today. I mean, you had it, like I said, if you had any doubt, it's amazing. But even Nancy Pelosi, why would anybody get married? Why would anybody? She's married. Now, obviously, there's benefits for being married to Nancy Pelosi. I don't know what they are, but, financial. Her husband has scored fairly well from the insider trading information that he has provided by being married to the scoundrel, Nancy Pelosi. What is the feminine term for scoundrel? Scoundrel usually is a masculine term. I have to look that up. Now, before some of you guys come out and say that's not what I asked, I'm not looking for words that rhyme with witch. That's not what I'm looking for. But there, scoundrel is typically a masculine in nature adjective used to describe. I wonder what the feminine version. I have to look that up. Have to go and look that up. So, once again, it is February 14th. You are listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I am your host, and you are in the right place for the next two hours. It is Friday, so we'll probably do an abridged show. If you'd like to give us a call, lines are open at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. Love to hear from you. Love to have you start the topic of the day, since I haven't started one yet. So this is your prime opportunity to kind of guide the conversation for tonight. But like I said, grab a chair, light your cigarettes if you got them, make some coffee, pop a lid, do whatever you got to do. For our fellow listeners there in Colorado and Seattle, fired up, I guess. That's so much what makes you more intelligent. I don't know. To each their own. Who am I to say? But what a night. We got a night watching the Olympics once again. And I highly recommend go out and watch the Olympics. Just turn the volume down. Don't listen to the commentary. I will tell you, most of the political talk is gone. Now, of course, President Putin did visit the American athletes. And he was greeted quite cordially. And, one of the things that amazes me is that this president, our president, he'll get on Air Force One, fly across country to play a game of golf. He'll do whatever, but he won't send a proper dignitary delegation to the United States, to the Olympics. So much for the reset button. I think Staples called. They want it back. They want their button back. They need it to make things easy for people. But it was nice. President Vladimir Putin going and visiting the American athletes. And the thing that kills me is the press. Have you not heard the press is so disappointed in the Americans' performance? Look, the world is a big place. There is a lot of talented people, and American exceptionalism, as great as it is, don't be misled to believe that we are, as far as human, as far as physical conditioning, are superior. I mean, we're lacking pretty much in everything. Now, of course, we can crank out the rap stars and the pop music stars and the movie stars. We can do that. We do that very well. the things that really have no basis in reality. Think about that. Think about that. Our country is now, no longer are we a country known for our great industrial prowess, our great scientific achievements, our exceptional educational systems. No! We're known for Miley Cyrus, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Super Bowl halftime shows, war. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, don't think for a minute. We haven't forgot about the pledge. We're going to do that. I got a special treat for you. But you're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show. Be back in a few.
Advertise to thousands of fellow patriots with Patriot FB Radio. Email advertise@patriotfb.com for more details. For all your prepping needs, visit our friends at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com or call 208-615-6331. 208-615-6331. Get involved. Get involved. Support Stone Anthony for President. www.stoneanthony2016.com. Put a real American in the White House.
A Monday warrior, mean stride. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride. Reserve a quiet defense, writing out the day's events. The river. What do you say about his company is what you say about society. Catch the mist. Catch the myth, catch the mystery, catch the riff.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show and podcast. I am your host. That is Rush with Tom Sawyer. I was just thinking about it. Like I said, music is such an incredible tool. I had a flood of memories coming back. And we talked about this yesterday about, the emotional aspect of advertising and how they open your emotions up and use that to expose that and then reprogram you. We, went on that long diatribe on yesterday's show. And I was just thinking, as I was sitting there listening to Rush, that was my father was stationed at Camp Sawyer Air Force Base in the great state of Michigan in the Upper Peninsula, in the UP, right on Lake Superior. And one of the first concerts I ever went to, April Wine, get it right, and Rush. That was the first concert that I ever went to. I stayed with a friend, and his brother, parents were gone, so his brother had tickets, and so we ended up going, and we went with them as kids. We were junior high. Went to a Rush concert. Watched Getty. It was awesome. It was incredible. But that was my first exposure to rock music. And then, if you look back at it now, it's pretty tame. Rush is really tame compared to what's out there now, what's considered rock music. So, this is a flood of memories, especially as I was watching the Olympics, watching the downhill, which seems to be one of my favorites. That and sledding. I think they call it sliding now, sliding. But watching that and growing up in northern Michigan, I can tell you, during the summer I was fishing, and during the winter, I was skiing. I had been known to abandon school and hit the slopes. Not more than once, more than a few times. So watching that today. But before we get too far into the evening, we do have business to take care of. And without further ado, here is tonight's version of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here in the United States, the Pledge of Allegiance has been recited for over 50 years by school children. In fact, my father remembers saying the Pledge of Allegiance faithfully each day before school started. However, even though children are taught to recite it every morning, they're never really told the true meaning of the words. Allow me to share with you the meaning of the words to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. This phrase is often overlooked. These are not empty words, which originated from thin air. They have meaning. As each of us say these words, I pledge allegiance, we are making a most serious promise. To the flag of the United States of America. The flag is a physical representation of the ideas and principles that the United States of America was founded upon. And to the republic for which it stands. It is a pledge to the constitutional government that God has put in place. One nation under God. We are one nation under God. Our founding fathers recognized this simple fact. Look at our governmental buildings. Look at the money we use. In God we trust. Without God, America will cease to be one nation. Indivisible. Not all Americans are in agreement. However, we all stand together in unison for our country. As the saying goes, united we stand, united we fall. With liberty and justice for all. Millions upon millions of immigrants have flocked to America for this very reason. We in America have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to start a business or to pursue dreams. Living in America doesn't mean you're guaranteed to be successful. However, living in America gives everyone the equal opportunity to choose what you want to do for a living.
This video was brought to you by www.veteransflagdepot.com. For more information, please visit our website or call us toll-free at 1-800-521-8387.
There you go. Found that out there on the web and felt it was appropriate. It was very, very appropriate. You know, we say the Pledge of Allegiance every day. I don't know if you do. I do. Have no, do it every day. Do it many times during the day because with the show and everything. But do we truly know what those words mean? Let me I'll take you there in a minute, but we still have another piece of business to take care of, so please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, Jeffrey W. Norton, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the organic Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office in which I'm about to enter, so help me God. Now we can begin the show. Now we can begin the show. And, one of the things that struck me today, actually it was last week, and I didn't have time, I haven't really brought it up, it just didn't fit in with the conversation. But tonight I feel compelled to talk about etiquette with the United States flag. Now, of course, we are taught this in Boy Scouts and different civic organizations, but truly it is something that is no longer discussed in the school systems or schools. And I think it's very important that we revisit that. And the reason why I bring that up is just the other day, Sandy and we were driving in a car, and our local police department, municipality, they got some new cop cars. They got some new police cars. And, you know, of course, they're all decked out. And if you not notice, police cars now are becoming black, white. You know, they always call them black and whites. But, you know, they're becoming they're becoming militaristic in their design. And I was looking at the design, and Sandy popped off and, you know, made a comment. It disturbed me. She's like, look at the American flag. Now, when I looked at this car, I saw two things wrong with it. Number one, it had the battle flag. Now, for those that don't know, what is the battle flag? If you look at the American flag, its field, or the blue, you know where the stars are? The blue? Should be in the upper left-hand corner, looking upon the flag. Now, if you look at most military uniforms, the blue, the field, will be in the right-hand side. Now, that was not a design flaw. That was not a design flaw. That's by purpose. That is considered the battle flag. Just like if you hang the American flag upside down, that is a cry for help. Right? Distress. But with the field facing on the right-hand side, so if you're looking at the American flag and it's on the right-hand side, that is what they typically call the battle flag. And why that is think about this. This goes back to the days of the cavalry. And think about the cavalry marching in the battle. Right? So the flag would be trailing behind the soldiers. Thus the blue in there, you know, it's affixed to the pole on the field side. So that's why they call it the battle flag, because when you're looking at it, it is supposed to be simulating the soldiers going into battle. That's why it is. And it was funny because I actually asked that question several years ago when I was working as a consultant, and I was working with the 5th CST, you know, the Chemical Dragons. And there was a major there, and I asked the major, and I got a soldier in trouble because I asked that question. So naturally, the major instantly turns to the soldier sergeant that was standing there and says, "Sergeant, will you please explain to Mr. Norton why the flag is reversed on our uniforms?" And of course, the sergeant couldn't explain it. Not of course, he just couldn't explain it. So the major then proceeded to explain this all to me, and now I understand. Now, there is a reason why I'm bringing this up, because it goes back to what I saw. And if you look at most of your police cars now, you will see the American flag displayed in a combat mode. And that raises several questions. Now, there were some other things that I saw that's very disturbing, trends. And so when we take a break, we're going to come back. We're going to be talking about the proper etiquette of the American flag. But you're listening to the Midnight Patriot, so hang in there, and we're going to get to this. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call, though. at 1-800-580-4870. 1-800-580-4870.
Join us at www.patriotfb.com, a social network for patriots. For all your prepping needs, visit our friends at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com or call 208-615-6331. 208-615-6331. Get involved. Get involved. Support Stone Anthony for President. www.stoneanthony2016.com. Put a real American in the White House.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
We were told nothing could be done to enjoy these final moments together.
But in that moment, when all seemed lost, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital gave us hope.
Because at this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care. We're changing the way the world treats childhood cancer by sharing our discoveries with doctors and scientists everywhere.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends. I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and join St. Jude in finding cures and saving children. Visit stjude.org.
Madison Rising. Get out to their website, madisonrising.com. Haven't played them. I wanted to play that in its entirety. I think it's very appropriate for the next few segments as we talk about the American flag. And I also recommend that you get out to freedomprepper.com. That is freedomprepper.com. Take a look at Joe's article on the pledge. Caught a glimpse of it. Haven't read it myself, but I know it's from Joe, so I know it's good stuff. But get out there to freedomprepper.com. Take a look at that. Take a gander at that. We'll get Joe on the air, and we're going to talk about it, but I want to read his article. You know, it's amazing. Joe does a show here called The Average Joe right before our show, 3 hours. And listening to him a little bit tonight as I was prepping for my show. And I think that probably is what got me motivated to talk about tonight's topic. And, you know, like I said, this is something that I experienced. Sandy and I were driving. We were driving by a police car, a new police car. It was all decked out, you know, white and black or black and white. I mean, this thing looked like, you know, someone paid a lot of money to have this thing designed. It was, you know, does a cool looking cop car increase their response? Think about that. We must have spent as taxpayers, a couple $1,000 for the signage on these cars. Does it make them any better, police? Do they serve and protect us any better? But that's a whole nother topic for another night. What I want to talk to you tonight is what I saw that was on the car that was disturbing. And it leads me to the night's conversation. Now, we've already established that the combat flag versus the standard stars and stripes that we see. Combat flag fields on the right as it's going. It represents the soldiers, the cavalry going into battle with the stripes trailing, right? That's why it's off. So when you see a military uniform, when our United States military is in conflict, that is the flag that is worn on the uniform. When they are not in conflict, then it actually does reverse. So that's a symbol. Now, I can understand the military, but as we were driving down the street and we were looking at the car, you know, Sandy made a comment. She's like, well, look at the American flag. It looks so cool. And I'm looking at it going, well, I don't see it. She said right there on the side of the car. And I'm like, well, what American flag? She said, the American flag. And I said, that's not an American flag. The American flag that I know of has a blue field and red and white stripes with white stars. That's the American flag I know. Not one that's black and white. That's right. They're the American flag on a police car was black and white. There was no red, white, and blue. And the red, white, and blue actually is part of the American flag. The colors are part of the flag. And the other most disturbing part is that they had the combat flag on. Now, you know, law enforcement is law enforcement, right? But last time I checked, they were not an entity of combat, right? And by wearing the flag in the way in which they're wearing it, I feel it's disrespectful to the flag. That's my personal opinion. You guys can chime in and give me a call at 1-800-580-4870, 1-800-580-4870. Let me know what you think. But, you know, and that's one of the things, too. And then I started to take notice at some of the other uniforms out there. And these aren't public, you know, these are private companies that have the American. They have, I was looking at a heating and air guy. And on his uniform, he had the American flag with the field, the blue section, commonly known as the field. And we're going to talk about that a little bit here in a second. We're going to get into the proper etiquette of the American flag. Was facing on the right side as you're looking at it, you know, in a combat stance. So I don't know. I know that I know people take their job very seriously. Even I've always said this, the fry guy at McDonald's thinks he's the best fry guy in the world, right? I mean, seriously, even though they hate their job and they don't care, but they think their job, without them. Have you ever worked with people like this where they feel that without them the company wouldn't survive? Oh my gosh. I don't know how they could figure, without me. And rightfully so, there are some individuals that are like that. But in the most part, there's usually someone that can replace you. And to be honest with you, I don't care what job you do. There's always someone to replace you. There's always someone better. My grandmother used to tell me that all the time. Being a tall young man and wanting to prove my manhood by getting in fights, she always used to tell me that, there's always someone there who is bigger and stronger than you, Jeff. And unfortunately, the lesson that I learned came from a guy who was much smaller than me. And it was a valuable lesson. I'm glad I learned it very young in age. But getting back to the flag. So I'm sitting there looking at this police vehicle. Flag's in a combat position. It's not red, white, and blue. It's black and white. It's Art Deco. Art Deco. Looks cool. Some designer, probably in San Francisco, said, "Oh, will this make it? This be stunning?" I'm sorry. Oh, that's scary. Hold on, I got to drink some coffee. I do that too well. What a disgrace! Is it because they can't have any color on the car? Because it kind of hides them? Dun, 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 Does it not look scary enough? I just don't get it. It's the American flag. You don't mess with the American flag. You just don't do it. What's really crazy is that you don't hear anything about it. When Coca-Cola, this tells you how screwed up we are. Coca-Cola changed its formula. Oh, it was crazy. People went nuts. I mean, people were, banning Coca. They were doing all the things. Now they're trying to change the national anthem. But that's another story for another night. But people were up in arms. Oh my God, I can't believe, But the American flag, you have municipalities all over this country who are changing the American flag. Where's the outrage? Where's the disgust? I can tell you, I actually called the police or the chief of police, lodged a complaint. Said I find it disgraceful, and I find it appalling. Now, the other thing too is I find the intentions. Now, one of the things that we talk about, if I get on the air and I tell people, and I'm going to quote this because I know they're listening. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And so I want to quote this. I want to get this on record. I want to get this on record that I'm using this as an example. This next statement is an example of speech and how it can get you in trouble. If I got on the air, if I publicly stated that the next person that comes in my house, I don't care what I'm killing them. I'm killing them dead. If I say that publicly, if you say that publicly, in some situations, if, God forbid, that ever happened now, because I made that statement, my intentions of deadly force will be called into questions. And let me listen to me here. Because everybody goes, well, you're in my house. I have the right to kill you. Or, I have the right to do. You do. You have a right to defend yourself. But when you make a statement, say, I'm just going to kill him, that's not defending yourself. You're just making a statement you're going to kill someone, right? That's basically what words have meanings, especially in the legal system. Words do have meanings. And so when I go around and I say, I'm just going to kill him, let God sort him out. Basically what that's saying, God forbid now if I have to protect myself, those words will come back and haunt me. So that's why when I tell people or I talk to people, look, I will do whatever I have to do to protect myself, my family, and my community. And I will use whatever force necessary as appropriate. Right? As appropriate. Or as what I feel is appropriate. I mean, the best thing to do is not even say it. Don't even say those words. But, I mean, that's how I feel. And I will tell you this. There is nothing that I own, personal property, worth taking someone else's life. They can take it. I got insurance. I'll just buy the bigger, come in, you want to steal my TV. You come down my hall or you come down, where we're at, then, game on, you're dead. I'll flat out tell you, because I will defend my family, my life, with what I deem is appropriate force to do so. And I will not stop until the threat to my life, my family, has ceased. Now you can infer whatever that means. So if I make a statement like that, or like my previous statement, and it can be held against me, when a police officer is driving around in a vehicle that's militarized, that is clandestine, and has symbols of combat on it, how is that any different? How does that mean that an officer? Now, bear with me. Let me kind of draw this out a little bit. So I am saying that, I personally say, kill them all, let God sort them out. And those words can be used against me. Now you have law enforcement who's driving around in militarized vehicles with symbols of combat. And the flag being inverted like that is a symbol of combat. So you got to ask, is there intentions to truly protect or conserve, or do they view us as combative? And the reason why I bring that up is that I want to throw out this number to you. And it goes to, I think, the heart of the issue, or what I feel the heart of the issue is. Number one, there are over 5,000 American citizens who have died at the hands of the police since the beginning of the Gulf War. There's roughly 3,000 soldiers, approximately. But 5,000 American citizens have died. Now, these are soldiers who are in combat, in war. We are seeing an ever-increasing number of police brutality. We're seeing it. We're seeing 70, 80-year-old women being thrown to the ground. We're seeing, mothers being smashed into the concrete. We're seeing, young men who are being apprehended, handcuffed in the back of the car, being choked to death. We're seeing more and more cases of police brutality. And about 2 weeks ago, we talked about this. Now, we get up here and we say, oh, we got friends and we understand, they're law enforcement. And I do. I have friends who are law enforcement. Acquaintances. These aren't guys, I eat lunch with or whatever. I do eat lunch with them, but they're not, not going to, invite them over to the Super Bowl party or anything like that. I don't have Super Bowl parties, but we don't hang out. But I have acquaintances. And for the most part, not for the most part, but the majority of them I feel are really good guys. But we talk about this prevailing wind that is going through our law enforcement. And I am making the correlation between the increase of police violence on citizens and the overall mentality of law enforcement. Now, getting back to the car. So here I am. I'm presented. I'm a junior officer. I'm young. Typically, some of us, came, or not some of us, but some of the officers now are ex-military, right? Came out of the military. And they're put into a vehicle that simulates, but is the antithesis of combat. Think about these vehicles that they're in. Look at your local law enforcement vehicles. A lot of them are getting the MRADs now. They're getting tanks, short of. They're putting these officers in these vehicles that are, decked out in clandestine colors, and they're, black, white. They got the combat flag, symbol, they're symbols. And those symbols mean, when you're a soldier, those symbols mean stuff. And it goes back to the subconscious, conscious conversation that we had last night. So when I see these cars decked out with combat symbols on them and, black and white and clandestine and militarized, it makes you kind of wonder. You got to stop and ask yourself. And I'm coming to the conclusion as I mature in this fight that there's nothing out of chance. It's all by design. And as we talked about yesterday about opening up the emotion, and then once they get the emotion response from you, then they can pour in reprogramming. And so I'm wondering, without, hooking up the brainwave machines and, looking at these officers as they see the car, if there is a symbonology that's going on there when they see these vehicles that they're being issued or they're being assigned to. And if they truly, I don't know, I got to talk to some more of my law enforcement friends, but do they truly feel that they're in a combative role? Do they feel that that they're in combat, that every day when they put on that uniform, they have now entered into a war zone? Do they truly feel that? I don't know. We have to have more conversations with those individuals. So if you're law enforcement, feel free to give me a call, 1-800-580-4870. I'd love to hear from you. I don't know. But I just find it strikingly odd that we're seeing an increase in police brutality. We're seeing an increase in citizens being killed by officers. We're seeing an increase of the militarization of our law enforcement. We're seeing combat symbols being placed on civilian, and I say civilian, but they're not military. They're not military. The military, believe it or not, is carved out. It's a whole different, they have a whole different set of rules legally, whereas a police officer still has to follow certain rules. They have to follow the same rules that you and I have to follow. Believe it or not. Didn't know that. I bet you didn't know that. When a law enforcement officer is involved in a shooting, they have to go through the same process, the same legal system, and then the DA decides. Military, it's a whole different, they have a whole different set of rules. They have a whole different rule book. They're not afforded a trial by jury by their peers. Whole different set of rules. So we're not talking about them. We're talking about civilians. And when I say civilian vehicles, well, police cars are civilian vehicles in regard to military. But they look more and more like they're military. So that's just some food for thought. Think about that. When you're out and about driving, Look at your local law enforcement. And, some of the older cars, of course, are, they still have probably the red, white, and blue. Old Glory on there. But we are seeing more and more an increase, more and more of law enforcement, their vehicles, their equipment, their training, and their attitude to be more militarized. Just a thought. Now, the reason why I bring that up, of course, a lot of you guys are sitting there going, well, of course they're militarized, Jeff. Read the news. No, look, I think for the most part that most people that go into law enforcement or that brat, they want to serve. But like my grandmother once said, you sit in a barber chair long enough, you're going to get a haircut. And I think what it is it's the whole conditioning that goes on. These officers enter into the police force to protect and serve, and they're there long enough. They see enough bad things. You want to talk about invoking a mental response? Right along with a police officer. They see some pretty horrific things. They see the worst in people, more so than they see the best in people. So they're susceptible to reprogramming, even more so than you and I. Because the stuff that we have, your brain still says, well, that's fake. Now, more and more, it's, getting blurred. But they're more susceptible to that programming that we talked about in last night's show. And I think that these vehicles being decked out the way they are and designed the way they are, it's part of the conditioned response. And I think that we're seeing a direct response to that. We're seeing increased violence of police officers upon you and I, the citizen. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about the American flag, I promise. But you're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast.
PatriotFB.com.
From Washington, this is VOA News. Syria peace talks end with no progress. Ukraine frees anti-government protesters. I'm Vincent Bruce reporting from Washington. Syria's main opposition group says peace talks with the government have hit a dead end after days of talks in Geneva without any breakthroughs. Opposition spokesman Louay Safi.
The regime has not submitted any other proposal for, about transition to democratic practice, away from dictatorship, away from bloodshed, away from imposition of the people in power on the population.
Syrian Deputy Foreign Minister Faisal Miqdad said the opposition has an unrealistic agenda. The opposition wants to discuss setting up a transitional government that would likely exclude President Bashar al-Assad. In Syria, opposition activists said a car bomb blew up outside a mosque in the rebel-held village of Yaduda Friday, killing at least 29 people. More in the story at voanews.com. Ukraine has freed the last of the 243 protesters arrested since anti-government demonstrations began in November. The release was part of a law passed last month to free the demonstrators from police custody. However, criminal charges will only be dropped when the demonstrators stop occupying government buildings. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is leaving China Saturday, pleased at Beijing's commitment to pressure North Korea to return to nuclear talks. After meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping Friday, Kerry said China could not have more forcefully reiterated its commitment to a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said China would never allow chaos or war in Korea and is serious in both words and actions. U.S. President Barack Obama offered millions of dollars in federal aid to help the state of California overcome the effects of severe drought in a visit to Fresno, California, Friday. The president also said he would seek $1 billion from Congress to help communities across the country to manage the effects of climate change. Pakistan ended a second formal round of talks with Taliban insurgents on Friday with a warning that continued violence in the country threatens the peace dialogue. Sharon Bain has a report from Islamabad.
It was a short meeting behind closed doors that ended with a clear statement from the government. The Taliban had to end its attacks or the peace talks would suffer. The government negotiating team was referring to a spate of bombings in the southern city of Karachi that has left at least a dozen dead and more injured. In a joint statement released after the meeting, the Taliban said it regretted the violence, but added the government should also immediately stop all its anti-terrorist operations. Previous peace pacts with the insurgents have failed. Sharon Bain, VOA News, Islamabad.
UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has urged the international community to intensify efforts to help the people of the Central African Republic, where he warned the crisis situation is worsening. VOA's Margaret Bashir reports from the United Nations.
Intercommunal attacks and reprisals by mostly Muslim Seleka fighters and largely Christian anti-Bellica fighters have killed thousands and left nearly 1 million people displaced or as refugees in neighboring countries. More than half the CAR's population has been affected by the crisis and are in need of aid. On Friday, UN Chief Ban Ki-moon expressed his concern to the Security Council about the cycle of revenge and reprisal attacks. It is becoming more likely that the United Nations will take over the African-led mission in the coming months, turning it into a full-fledged UN peacekeeping force. Margaret Bashir, VOA News, the United Nations.
Friday, France announced it would temporarily increase its small troop presence in the CAR. Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono has declared a state of emergency on the main island of Java because of a major volcanic eruption. Mount Keled erupted late Thursday, sending a cloud of ash 30 kilometers into the sky. Asiana Airlines is changing its training for pilots to encourage crews to talk more and change cockpit culture. A U.S. investigation found the corporate culture may have been an issue in that deadly Asiana crash last year in California. A month after the crash, VOA was the first to report that the crash could be linked to a culture of cockpit hierarchy where one pilot defers to a senior officer even if the junior pilot fears imminent danger. Japan's Yuzuru Hanyu Friday became the first Asian to win the men's Olympic figure skating title at the Sochi Winter Games. More on all these stories at voanews.com. I'm Vincent Bruce, VOA News.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I dug this up from the archives. I think it's appropriate since we're talking about the grand old flag. The man in black himself. Can't explain it any better than this. Mr. Johnny Cash.
I walked through a county courthouse square, and on a park bench an old man was sitting there. I said, your old courthouse is kind of run down. He said, no, it'll do for our little town. I said, your old flagpole's kind of leaned a little bit, and that's a ragged old flag you got hanging on it. He said, have a seat, and I sat down. Is this the first time you've come to our little town? I said, I think it is. He said, I don't like to brag, but we're kind of proud of that ragged old flag. You see, we got a little hole in that flag there when Washington took it across the Delaware. And it got powder burned the night Francis Scott Key set up watching it writing, say, can you see? Got a little rip in New Orleans with Pakenham and Jackson tugging at its seams. It almost fell at the Alamo beside the Texas flag, but she waved on though. It got cut with a sword at Chancellorsville. Got cut again at Shiloh Hill. There was Robert E. Lee, Beauregard, and Bragg, and the south wind blew hard on that ragged old flag. On Flanders Field in World War I, she took a bad hit from a Bertha gun. She turned blood red in World War II. She hung limp and low by the time that one was through. She was in Korea, Vietnam. She went where she was sent by her Uncle Sam. The Native American Indians, the blacks, yellow, the white, all shed red blood for the stars and stripes. And in her own good land here, she's been abused. She's been burned, dishonored, denied, refused. And the very government for which she stands is scandalized throughout the land. And she's getting threadbare and she's wearing kind of thin. But she's in good shape for the shape she's in. Well, she's been through the fire before, and she can take a whole lot more. So we raise her up every morning, and we bring her down slowly every night. We don't let her touch the ground, and we fold her up upright. On second thought, I guess I do like to brag, 'cause I'm mighty proud of that ragged old flag.
Are you proud? Are you proud of your ragged old flag? I know I am. I know I am. And now I understand why the Pledge of Allegiance is such an important part of our beginning in the mornings. As Mr. Johnny Cash so eloquently stated, there's been so much and so many who have sacrificed for that ragged old flag. And part of being a patriot is not standing around and posting on Patriot FB. Part of being a patriot is correct those, to educate those, to bring respect and honor back to those things that deserve it and who have earned it. Part of being a patriot is to remember the men and women who have sacrificed so that others can criticize. But that's what makes this country so great. When you will stand toe-to-toe with your foe, fighting for their right to criticize you for your belief. Those are powerful words from Mr. Johnny Cash, the man in black. Now, getting back to the topic of tonight's show, I think it's our duty, our job, to educate ourselves. Get over, and I was corrected, and I have to admit, I just assume I see Joe everywhere, so I see links, and so his article is actually Survival by Preparedness. That's Survival by Preparedness. There's a link to it if you go out to patriotfb.com. Not Freedom Prepper, but I'm sure Scott will get it on his site. I don't know. Scott, I just put you under the gun there. I do apologize. But also go out to freedomprepper.com. A lot of great articles a lot of other Joe articles. But this article in regard to the American flag, or the Pledge of Allegiance by Joe Sullivan, can be found by Survival by Preparedness. So get out there, survivalbypreparedness.com. If you want a link, if your spelling is not as good as mine, and you want a link, you can just go to Patriot FB, log in, and you'll see a link right there. And everything. So with that, let's talk about the American flag. Let's talk about etiquette with the American flag, because I think it's important, because there's a lot of things that, as I was reading through this, there was a lot of things that I didn't even know. And that's why I want to share it with you. This actually comes out of the Farmer's Almanac. The Farmer's Almanac. And this is what Congress advised the use of the flag in a joint resolution dated July 22nd in 1942. So in 1942, this is because there was some argument about the American flag. There is some argument currently about the American flag, and we're going to talk about that after I go through this. So hold tight. We'll get through this. But if you'd like to join in the conversation, give me a call at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. I'd love to hear from you. But per the American Farmer's Almanac, the flag of the United States is an emblem of our identity, a separate nation, which the United States of America has been more for than 200 years. Therefore, citizens should stand at attention and salute when their flag is passed in a parade or being hoisted or lowered. You know, one of the things that just irritates me is when you are at a high school or any kind of event and the colors, the American flags, are being presented, and you got people that will not stand, and you got people that will not take their hair, their hats off for the American flag. You got men, you got women that don't, wear baseball. They don't take their hats off. That's one thing I enjoy about NASCAR. I will tell you this. I've actually been at a NASCAR race in Chicago, right outside Chicago, and Chicago. There's there's a lot of we'll say liberals out there, and they go to NASCAR. I don't know why they go to that. They go because of the event. Maybe they're going to make fun of us rednecks. I don't know, but they go. And I was there, and I actually they did the presenting of the colors. They did the Star Spangled Banner and the pledge, and oh, by the way, NASCAR, they do pray before the race. And there were individuals who didn't stand. There were individuals who didn't take their hats off. And I will tell you this, though. What was amazing is the fans were yelling at these people. The fans. There were people in the audience. Now, you go down to Bristol, you go down to Daytona, you go down to some of the southern, the gentleman tracks, as they like to say. And you wouldn't even think about not removing your lid or not standing when the colors were presented. you would get a beat down. And it's amazing. And I say that because NASCAR is going to do it this weekend. Watch the 26th, I think, Daytona. Not this weekend, but next weekend, the Daytona, the Super Bowl of all races. We kind of do it backwards. We are kind of backwards. But the Super Bowl of all races is the first race of the year. And watch the audience when the colors are presented. It's an amazing thing. And like I said, they still pray at the beginning of the race, at the chagrin of the libtards out there. But if you don't want to pray, don't go. Don't go. So, the custom to display the flag only from sunrise to sunset on flagstaffs in the open, but it may display it at night upon special occasion to produce a patriotic effect. In other words, it can be flown at night for a patriotic effect, for a reason, if it's part of a show or something. So, these businesses that leave their flags up overnight because they're too lazy to take them down, my response and your response to them as a consumer of their store or whatever should be, don't put it up to begin with. If you're not going to take it down, if you're not going to show it the respect that it deserves, then why bother? Why bother? And I'm going to put this link up after the show so you guys can, at patriotfb.com, so you can have this and you can take it into these establishments. Maybe, part of being a patriot is that we need to make others aware. And so if you know of a business that flies a flag, that has a flag, maybe you ought to print this up and take it into their establishment and show it to them. Say, hey, look, because, a lot of people, believe it or not, I believe that most Americans, most citizens are not being disrespectful. They just don't know. They haven't been taught. We're not taught these things anymore. And they just don't know. Now, if you make them aware they continue to do it, then they're being disrespectful, and then you choose if you want to go to that establishment. When the flag is hung vertically on a wall, window, or door, the Union, the blue, should be on the observer's left. When the flag is hung either horizontally or vertically against the wall, the Union blue field should be on the left, on the observer's left. And that's what I was talking about. It should always, the blue should be on your left, except in the military and combat, when it's a combat flag, when it has a combat stance, or when the nation's in combat. But that should only be done by the military, not by civilians. The flag should be hoisted briskly and lowered ceremoniously. In other words, you fly the flag quickly, but when it comes down, you give reverence. It should not be displayed on days when the weather is inclement. In other words, when the snow, rain, it's okay not to fly the flag. The flag should be displayed on all days, especially on New Year's Day, Inauguration Day, Martin Luther King's birthday, Lincoln's birthday, Washington's birthday, Easter Sunday, Mother's Day, Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, half-staff until noon, Flag Day, Father's Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Constitution Day, Columbus Day, Navy Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and such other days as may be proclaimed by the President of the United States, the birthdays of states, the date of their admission, and on state holidays. It should be displayed at every public institution and in or near every polling place on Election Day and at schoolhouses during school days. You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. If you'd like to join in the conversation, give us a call at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. Love to hear from you. As tonight we are talking about the American flag.
Advertise to thousands of fellow patriots with Patriot FB Radio. Email advertise@patriotfb.com for more details. For all your prepping needs, visit our friends at Mountain View Off-Grid. Get involved. Support Stone Anthony for President. www.stoneanthony2016.com. Put a real American in the White House. For all your prepping needs, visit our friends at mountainviewoffgridliving.com or call 208-615-6331. 208-615-6331.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. It is Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. But today we're going to talk about the American flag. Some interesting information that we're discussing. If you'd like to join in the conversation, feel free to give us a call at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. Love to hear from you. But as we continue on here, Talked about the American flag should be displayed at every public institution and in or near every polling place on Election Day and schoolhouses during the school days. In the procession, the flag is to be the right of other flags, or if in line of other flags, in front of the center of that line. The flag should not be displayed on a float except from a staff, nor draped over the hood, top side, or backside of a vehicle. When the flag is displayed on a vehicle, the staff should be fixed firmly to the chassis. No other flag shall be placed above the flag of the United States, or, if on the same level, to its right. The United Nations flag may not be displayed above or in a position of superior prominence to the United States flag except at United Nations headquarters. Didn't know that. I thought the American flag on American soil was always prominent, but apparently we're subservient. That speaks a lot. That statement right there says a lot. Says a lot. We are now subservient to the United Nations. The flag displayed with another against a wall from crossed staffs should be on the right of flag's own right, and its staff should be in front of the other staff. It's all about prominence. What they're talking about. The American flag should always be prominent than any other flag, except at the United Nations. Except at the United Nations. It should be at the center and the highest point when displayed with a group of state flags. When flags of states, cities, etc. are flown on the same halyard, the United States flag shall be at its peak. When flags of two or more nations are displayed, they are to be flown from separate staffs of the same height, and the flag of the United States shall be hoisted first and lowered last. When displayed from a staff projecting from a building, the Union upper inner corner shall be at the peak of the staff. When it is displayed otherwise than by being flown from a staff, it should be displayed flat, whether indoors or out, or so suspended that the folds fall as freely as though the flag were staffed. When displayed over a street, it should be suspended vertically with the Union to the north in an east and west street, or to the east in a north to south street. On a platform, it should be above and behind the speaker, with the Union's upmost end to the observer's left. When displayed from a staff in a church or auditorium, the flag should occupy the position of honor and be placed at the speaker's right as he faces the audience. When flown at half staff, the flag should be first hoisted to the peak for an instant and then lowered to the half staff position. It should again be raised to the peak before it is lowered for the day. Half staff is 1/2 the distance between the top and the bottom of the staff. The flag must be flown at half staff or on all buildings on the death of any officer listed below for a period indicated. For the president or former president, 30 days from the date of death. For vice president, the chief justice, or a retired chief justice of the United States, or the Speaker of the House of Representatives, 10 days from the day of death. For an associate justice or the Supreme Court or a member of the cabinet, a former vice president, the president pro temp of the Senate, the majority leader of the House of Representatives, the minority leader of the House of Representatives, from the day of death until internment. For the United States Senator, representative delegate, or the resident commissioner for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the flag shall be flown in the metropolitan area of the District of Columbia on the day of death and on the following day. In the state, congressional district, territory, or commonwealth of such senator, representative, delegate, or commissioner from the day of death and until internment. For a governor within the state, territory, or possession from the day of death until internment. When the flag is used to cover a casket, the union shall be at the head and over the left shoulder. The flag shall not be dipped to any person or thing. Should not be dipped to any person or thing. It shall never be displayed with the union down, save a signal for dire distress. It shall never touch anything beneath it, such as the ground, the floor, water, or merchandise. It shall never be carried flat or horizontally, but always aloft and free. It should never be fastened, displayed, used, or stored so that it might be easily torn, soiled, or damaged in any way. It should never be used as coverings for a ceiling. It should never have anything placed on it. The flag should never be used for any advertising purpose, nor embroidered on cushions or handkerchiefs, printed on paper napkins or boxes, nor used as any portion of a costume. When the flag is in such condition that it is no longer a fitting emblem, it should be destroyed in a dignified way, preferably by burning. I will post this. We're going to take a break here. We get back from the break. I will make sure that we get this posted at patriotfb.com so that you, too, can share this with your friends, your family. Let them know that there is a proper way to honor the American flag. If you'd like to join in the conversation, give us a call at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. Get out to the web at www.patriotfb.com. That is www.patriotfb.com. Join us in the chat room. We do watch it from time to time. Love to hear from you. Get your opinions. And we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to honor the men and women of uniform.
Join us at www.patriotfb.com, a social network for patriots. For all your prepping needs, visit our friends at mountainviewoffgridliving.com or call 208-615-6331. 208-615-6331. Get involved. Get involved. Support Stone Anthony for President. www.stoneanthony2016.com. Put a real American in the White House.
Out the wheel. We're going downtown in the middle of the night. We're laughing and I'm joking and we're feeling alright. Oh, I bet I'm nationwide. Yes, I bet I'm nationwide. shoes. They smoke their lucky strikes and wearing nylon shoes. Go keep back nationwide. Yeah, we back nationwide.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. That's ZZ Top. I'm bad and I'm nationwide. Yeah, I'm worldwide. Actually, no, I'm not. You can only listen to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast if you are in the great United States, its territories, Great Britain, Ireland, Scotland, and Canada. Everybody else we are blocking. Yeah. I don't care. I don't care. There's several reasons why we do that. We do it obviously for security reasons, but also for legality reasons. Got a notice one time that I was being blocked on YouTube because of some things that I said about Muhammad. So yes, we are blocked from those countries. And so I said, hey, look, that's fine too. I don't care. I can care less what you do in your country, and I can care less what your opinions are of our country. This show's for Americans and for freedom-loving Americans. And let's talk a little bit, since tonight's topic, we're talking about the American flag. Now, there is a controversy going on. Now, if you noticed in the Farmer's Almanac, I posted that up there. Get out to patriotfb.com. That is patriotfb.com. Take a look. You might want to do sort right there in your thing instead of you can sort by most popular or most recent. So you can hit most recent and you'll see the post. And, I highly recommend you can do a printed version of that. Anywhere, and even yourself, if you have the American flag and you are displaying the American flag, read that. Read the Farmer's Almanac guidelines for the American flag. Read that. Take that to your businesses that you do business with if they fly a flag, because you'll be surprised how many Americans don't know this. Now, one of the things that was shocking as I was reading it was the fact that the American flag is supposed to be prominent everywhere in the United States except at the United Nations. Go figure. That's telling. That is very, very telling. That's something I didn't know. I learned something new tonight by listening to the Patriot FB, the Midnight Patriot with Jeff Norton. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call at 1-800-580-4870. That's 1-800-580-4870. Now, there is a controversy in regard to the American flag, and it has nothing to do with burning or desecration of. This controversy is the flag in which we see and we recognize the true American flag. Now hold on. Bear with me. The American flag as described, obviously, shall have 13 stripes. The stars with the blue field, right? That's the American flag. Anything other than that is not the American flag. Now, the flag that you see in ceremonies, the flag that you see at the White House, the flag that you see in courtrooms, the flags that you see in most flags, if not all, that you see, except for the ones possibly that you fly outside your house, have a gold tassel around it. Correct? Now, there has been a claim, and I've seen both sides of this, but that is actually the maritime flag. Now, why is the maritime flag significant? The one with the gold tassel. See, you got to remember, we live in a country in which words and symbology has meaning. And just because you're not educated to the fact of the meaning of them doesn't mean that they still don't exist. You know, we talk about this. The reason why we pledge our allegiance to the organic Constitution is we pledge our allegiance to the Constitution prior to the 14th Amendment, in which all of us were made subjects thereof to the corporation. And in hand with that, when you do your pledge of allegiance, or you affirm your allegiance to the American flag, and the flag that if you look at it, it has the gold tassel. Now, that flag is what they call the maritime flag. So if you pledge your allegiance to the maritime flag, believe it or not, you are pledging your allegiance to a corporation. And let me expand on that. Gerald Celente did an excellent article on it, and you can Google it. Are Americans sure their flag is still there? And he wrote it after Christina Aguilera, Super Bowl, messed up the national anthem. I'll put the link up too after the show. But if you want to get ahead of me, you can go out there and Google that. Now, why is that significant? Because the two flags, when you play, they are different. One of them is the American flag. The other one is the maritime flag. And the maritime flag, you always tell which one it is because it has the tassel that runs the outer perimeter of the flag, the gold tassel. Or you can just Google maritime flag. So, now, why is that important? Because under the maritime flag, if you pledge your allegiance to that flag and thereof, under maritime admiralty law, the corporation of the United States, not the constitutional entity, is in control. For those of you unfamiliar with maritime law, it's a legal implication. Here's a brief explanation. I'm going to give it to you here in a second, but I want to stress this to you. Maritime law is a set of laws outside of any nation's constitutional laws. Believe it or not, a foreign entity could enter into American waters through the Great Lakes and be considered in international water by law and definition. Now, there's been arguments according to, what defines international waters, and they're fighting about that. And that's why it's very important that you read the United Nations case with President Bush, where he was actually, if the law that they were passing or the treaty that they were entering into was ratified and observed, technically the Great Lakes would be considered an international body of water. Now, that has issues pretty far-reaching, but the main issue is that a lot of foreign countries wanted to come, because for you guys that don't know, the Great Lakes are spring-fed, and a lot of foreign countries wanted to come and suck up the water and take it with them. And under international law, international treaty, they could do that in international waters. The other thing, too, is that you're subject to. Under maritime law, if you carry a firearm on any sailing vessel, any vessel, in international waters, you are considered a navy, and thus you could be disposed of accordingly. That's why, these pirates, everybody's like, well, why don't they have armed guards on these ships, protecting these ships? The reason why they don't have them is because they would be considered, under international maritime law, they would be considered a navy. And thus they can be in conflict. So This, the maritime laws do not apply. The maritime laws, if you are on waterways in the United States, you can be seized. Your boat, your property, everything can be boarded at any time. That's maritime law. But more importantly, on land, the maritime law could apply. Especially when you give loyalty and fidelity to the maritime flag. Right? And let me I'm going to break it down for you. But, you ever wonder why the flags, especially those in courts, law, police stations, and even in the lobby of Walt Disney Corporation, they have the gold fringe, as we talked about. It's not that it makes the flag look great or, it makes it look cool, but what it does is it does break it up. Those governed by the law and the institution are not governed by the United States of America Constitution, but by the bylaws of the United States of America Corporation. There is actually bylaws for the United States Corporation, and that's where the 14th Amendment comes into play. Subject thereof. You are subject to the corporation of the United States of America. Not to the country, but to the corporation subject thereof. Words have meanings. Symbols have meanings. Just because you aren't educated or ignorant of the fact, and that's the purpose of what we're trying to do here tonight, is kind of shed some light so then you can go do some further research and learn some more. The corporation is a headless beast that strives to create profit. Profit from the layman is money. Profit from those who control the world is control. The gold fringe on any American flag is the greatest level of desecration that one could have. This goes for state flags as well. It says that the legal world that you are under the laws of the corporation and not of the country. Ultimately, when you walk into the court of law, you are being governed by the bylaws of the corporation and not by your constitutional rights. There are courts that decide if a matter is constitutional or unconstitutional, but they are merely looking out for their own legal domain and into ours. For we are the people, are the only body or group that considered itself under the Constitution. So the courts, that's a damning statement. The courts only adhere to the Constitution when it's advantageous to them. But they are not bound to the Constitution. So what is maritime law? The gold fringe originates from something called maritime law. This was a technique that countries used back in the days of naval fleets that needed to barter or sign treaties between nations. Each ship flew a flag of its country to denote its legal domain. This flag was honored as the legal domain of that ship. If one were to step onto that ship, one was subject to the written and recorded laws of the flag's countries. The gold fringe on the United States flag is a legal holdover from these times. When one walks into a courtroom or any other institution with a gold fringe, one has surrendered to the bylaws of that corporation and not to the Constitution of the United States. So when you enter into a legal room with that flag, you are surrendering like stepping on board a ship or a vessel. It is amazing how those who wish to deceive us, those who wish to control us, will go at no end to have dominion over us. It is amazing. So when I ask, do some more research on this. It's interesting. Now, there are some that say, oh, that's all hooky. But believe it or not, maritime law supersedes any other law. It does. You know, they're talking with the not Exxon Valdez, but with what happened out in the Gulf. Maritime law actually denotes that the captain or the person that's in charge should be held and executed for his crimes. Now, of course, that will never happen because of the corporations, but you need to read into it. We need to do more research on this. It's a very interesting topic, and once again, words have meaning. And could this symbol also have meaning? Is this how they have stripped us of our constitutional rights, and we don't even know it? And they tell us, oh, yeah, you have rights. You have rights. But in essence, you don't. In essence, is this how they truly control us? They tell us, oh, everything's okay, as they lead us into the showers. See, this government, like most governments, are involved in the occult. I'm a firm believer. You don't have to spend that much time in Washington, D.C. to see the Egyptian phallic symbols and the symbols, the occult symbols. It doesn't take you long. You know, go to the Washington Monument and look at the symbols of ISIS. Look at the occult symbol. Look at the ley lines. Look at the geometry, which is rooted in Freemasonry. The ley lines, the way that significant buildings line up and point back to particular ancient structures like Stonehenge. And you are talking about the United States government, who is leaders and whose masters subscribe to the occultist views of life. So is this just another example on how they feel that they have dominion over us? By getting us to believe or to succumb to the control of the corporation and not our God-given rights as provided to us under the United States Constitution. I don't know. I don't know. We need to do more research. As we wind up the evening, it's a short show tonight, 2 hours, Friday night. I want to remind you, as you go home or you spend with your family over the weekend, and take the time to spend with your family. There's nothing greater in your life than your family. There's nothing more important. There's nothing more pressing than the time that you spend with your loved ones. We only have a short amount of time on this earth. And one of the greatest regrets that most people say when they're on their deathbed is that they wish they had more time to spend. They wish they would have, spent more time with their family. So take that opportunity and do that. And, another thing is spend time with your community, with your friends. Reach out to a friend. Go out and eat breakfast with them tomorrow. We're gonna go out as a family and do our post-Valentine's breakfast. But reach out to a friend. Go out, have a cup of coffee. Re-engage. Be part of the social creatures that we need to be. But also be mindful that there's going to be tomorrow and the next day, there's going to be 22 soldiers who will not be with their family anymore. There will be 22 soldiers who, through unfortunate circumstances, decided that they will end their lives. Be mindful of that. And I ask of you tomorrow to stop. Find a soldier who has paid the ultimate price in your neighborhood, in your community. Write their name down on a piece of paper. Put it in your wallet, in your purse. And when you say the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning, in your morning prayers or whatever you do, take that piece of paper out and say their name. Honor them. Honor them. So before we honor the fallen for this month of February, I just want to let you know that you, of course, will be in my heart and my prayers. Be thinking about you. Join me out at patriotfb.com over the weekend. I'll be out there sporadically because I'm going to be spending my weekend with my family, but yeah, I'll check in. If you need anything, please send me an email, jeff@themidnightpatriot.com. I will respond, or you can send me a message there at patriotfb.com as well. But once again, I just want to tell everybody thank you. It's been an incredible weekend. We got a lot of things done this weekend. This week. We're on our new servers. Thank you for your patience. I want to thank everybody for their camaraderie. I want to thank the callers that called in during the week's shows that added to the conversation. I look forward to the weekend, but I also look forward to Monday when I can get back on the air and talk to you. Now, Stone Anthony will be joining us on Tuesday. I am going to try to record a show this weekend with Tim for Munitions Monday. I know he's busy. But like I said, may God bless you. May God keep you. But right now, we need to honor the fallen.
Somebody, sister or brother, a father, son, daughter or mother, come on. They are the soldiers of America. They put their lives on the
Army Private First Class Joshua A. Gray, February 10th, 2014.
Advertise to thousands of fellow patriots with Patriot FB Radio. Email advertise@patriotfb.com for more details. Get involved. Get involved. Support Stone Anthony for President. www.stoneanthony2016.com. Put a real American in the White House. For all your prepping needs, visit our friends at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com or call 208-615-6331. 208-615-6331. Join us at www.patriotfb.com, a social network for patriots.
Cigarettes were a quarter then. Bobby socks and jeans were in. Elvis sang the songs that we loved so. And the most important thing to us was keeping gas in my old truck so I could take us to the drive-in show.